Hello and welcome to the Pod Awakens as we start our Acolyte coverage. My name is Jordan, and with me on this journey through the Acolyte is Ron. How are you today, Ron?
I'm doing great, man. It's been kind of a comedy of errors trying to line up our schedules and be able to
Yeah,
get this
I know.
done
I
for
was like,
for good
we were
reason.
trying, yeah, we were trying to get this up on Wednesday, and then real life got in the way, and then yesterday, prior arrangements got in the way. So
Yeah,
we're doing it Friday, and it'll be up. Um, Hopefully late Friday, early Saturday. We're trying to make the rest of these not be as late, I guess we
yeah.
would say. But I
Mhm.
have prior engagements this Wednesday too, so we are screwed. Okay, but
We'll figure it out. Don't worry.
we'll
We'll
figure
figure
it
it
out.
out.
Don't worry about it. We'll have the coverage before the next episode comes live. That's the main thing. Okay, so we are talking episodes 1 and 2, as it was a 2 episode premiere. So episode 1 was called Lost/Found. That was written and directed by Leslye Headland, and the synopsis was the Jedi pursue a suspect after a shocking crime. And episode 2, Revenge/Justice, written by Jason Micallef and Charmaine DeGrate or DeGrate. Um, I want to say DeGrate, but I think it's DeGrate. Directed by Leslye Headland, and a synopsis was an assassin strikes again, but this time the Jedi are there to attempt to capture. Both of these aired June 4th on Disney Plus, but premiered June 3rd in theaters. If you were lucky enough to have one of those theaters near you, I was not. My
Same.
luck, I probably wouldn't have been able to go anyway on Monday. We'll, just with how this week has been. So all good. Um, so I guess let's just kind of dive into our general thoughts, and then we can kind of I have notes that go like scene by scene. I don't want to break it down that way, but it'll
Yeah,
help
no.
me like be able to pick stuff out that really stood out to me and stuff like that. And then we'll kind of end with theories, I think. So we'll kind of go, unless the theory comes up organically, but we'll
Yeah.
kind of go just general thoughts at first. Ron, especially, is your first introduction to the High Republic
Mhm.
in that era, and you're a big Jedi fan, lightsaber prequel. This is a prequel to the prequels, so right up your alley.
Yeah. No, I enjoyed the hell out of it, honestly. Um, First, just before I dive into my thoughts, just because you brought up the episode titles, at first I was like, huh, what, the slash in between. I was like, why wouldn't they just put and? That seems a lot cleaner. And so you realize it's supposed to be like a reference to the twins and like
Yeah, you're like, is
basically the,
this Is this a Mojo episode?
yeah, yeah, exactly. But no, it was really cool the way that they did that and the way they had it. Like each side of it represents one of the twins. But I enjoyed it a whole lot. It's one of those shows that you almost kind of gotta grade it a little bit on a bit of a different, like, as compared to how you would review some other Star Wars stuff, just because like think back to when Ahsoka first premiered or Obi-Wan. These were characters that we've been in love with for years, that we've been following for years. Um, and with this, it's all so new. I mean, obviously, there's a massive High Republic fandom out there, but in terms of these characters specifically and all that stuff, this is all brand new territory. And even in the era itself on screen, this is brand new territory. So
Yeah,
it's tough to compare it to some of the things that we've been following for a longer time. With that said, everything that I saw, I loved. The visuals were amazing. It felt very like big and cinematic. You know, a problem that people have with a lot of the Disney Plus stuff with Star Wars is that it feels very small because of the volume. But I thought they did a tremendous job in this show of correcting that, like the wide shots of Coruscant, and when we
this
saw
was on
Omega.
location too. So
Yes.
from what I heard, they didn't use any volume. They used blue screen and they used
Mhm.
real sets.
And you can tell like when they were on Olega and like the crash site on Karlak, I believe it was.
Yes,
Like
Carlac.
it, yes, like it just it all had that movie esque kind of feel to it that I really appreciated. First episode was a little slower, as you'd imagine. It was introducing all of us to this era, these characters, setting up sort of the bare bones plot of the story. So even though it started off with a bang, obviously with that scene that we saw on the tail end of the Phantom Menace in theaters, it was a bit of a slower one. But then once we get into episode 2, when they kind of get the necessary stuff out of the way and we can really start to peel back the layers of this mystery, I was hooked. And even now, I'm still like so stoked for next episode, and like I have so many questions and theories, and it's really awesome. So it definitely it's got me hooked, and I'm super stoked to see where we go from here.
How many have you gotten a chance to watch it more than once, or have you watched it once?
I watched it once all the way through, and then I did just sort of a skim through for the specific scenes that I wanted to like hint and make more notes on for this episode, but didn't do 2 start to finish watches.
Right. Because I just wanted to bring up, because we kind of felt similarly, where I felt like I wouldn't even say slow. I felt like episode 1 was a lot of like build up, like like they have to set the stage.
Yeah.
But I'll say it played a lot better for me on rewatch. I just rewatched these, and episode 1 left me with like I was able to. This is what's good about, like, I guess, mystery shows. And look, like, the mystery is not really like who's killing the Jedi, right? That's how the trailer is shot. But the real mystery is what happened 16 years ago that is making Mae want to take revenge on these Jedi, right?
Yeah.
And I think we're about to find out. I read rumors that the 3rd episode is a flashback, but I'm thinking maybe they might even just sprinkle those flashbacks in. I don't really know. I don't know if somebody was just BSing out of their butt, whatever. But because it would be kind of weird to go like a full flashback episode after.
Yeah,
but
yeah. I also I thought it would be told like through the sort of visions that Osha's having, and like the mind meld moments with Mae. Like I thought that those were the moments that like we'd get a little bit here, we'd get a little bit there, and then maybe like episode 4 or 5 that would get paid off. But that's surprising if they're doing that right away. I don't think it's a bad thing, because to me, the big mystery, or maybe not the big mystery, but an equal mystery, is the identity of this Sith and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So if it was like a first half is the mystery of this Mae thing, and then once we get that out of the way, that's when we really start to get into the Sith and the identity of all that, and how they've managed to still be around all this time, and all that other good stuff that we'll get into later.
Yeah, so for me, it played a lot very well in watching it again, because there was instances that I maybe was led to believe something else, but when I watched it again with the context of episode 2, that I was like, oh no, like let's say in Dara, when she's fighting Mae, and she reveals it's Mae, and she says you, and we're supposed to believe that she thinks it is Osha. I think she knows at that moment that it is Mae, and she's shocked that the you is Mae and not Osha. But like I feel like on the first watch, you're supposed to believe like, oh, she thinks it is the Jedi for like the one that's a Jedi, because as we know, Soul thinks that Mae is dead, and it's not just like they left her to die. They have proof, like they thought they saw her die. Like he said he saw her die. So I think, that was supposed to be led one way, but then when you watch it another time, you're like, oh no, like this is, she knows at this point. And that is what I think anyway. I think it is supposed to be that way. Then we had, on top of that, there was just other things with like, I always get this feeling anytime I watch brand new Star Wars, it's just a little surreal. It's less surreal nowadays because we get so much of it. But like I always go back to when I was in the theater for Force Awakens, right? And this is going to sound lame, I think, but I took a moment when the lights go down, the Lucasfilm logo pops up, and I close my eyes a bit right before it says a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, and I'm like, all right, you're about to see brand new Star Wars. And it's almost like I had some adrenaline, like my heart's pumping a bit. And then the, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away comes on. Then it feels like the longest gap until the trumpet. Right. Yeah. And then you're like, and I was like waiting on the edge of my seat for it. And then as the movie's going on, you're like, sometimes you're sitting there like, okay, do we like that choice they made? This is Star Wars. Like, is this adding to the thing? And that kind of happened for me a bit in the higher, like in this one, in the
Mhm.
Acolyte, watching episode 1, you're like, all right, pressure's on. Everybody's already review bombed it.
Yeah,
Like, pressure's on, right? Um, so I'm sitting there watching it, and I am a fan of the High Republic. I'm a fan of Star Wars overall. And you're like, okay, so let's see what this is like. And then the second time I watch it, all of that is off of, there's no more weight in
Mhm.
that, right? Like,
Yeah.
you're like, I already know how this goes, and you're watching it. And I felt like the choices that maybe I was maybe a little taken aback by, or how fast paced I know that first episode you said was slow, but when I'm talking about like fast paced, I'm talking about how fast they had to pay off stuff. Like, I
Yes.
didn't think we would know that May survived in the first episode, or that the main characters would know that.
Mhm.
But like Soul figures that out in that episode. Osha already figured, like, it was moving pretty fast in that sense, because the trailers are supposed to be believing that uh that this is going to be the hunt, right? The hunt for the
Yeah.
Jedi killer. But really, like, Osha gets cleared very quickly compared
Mhm.
to what I was thinking. I thought maybe that'd be a 3 episode arc of her being like, I didn't do it. That got
Well,
resolved pretty quickly, and that's good for me. I think that was good. I didn't want that to be a dragged out like event, but like
mhm.
watching it the second time, all of that weight is off of it, and I was able to just sit back and enjoy it a lot more. And I think episode 1 is really bumped up in my evaluation since then.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go back and just watch start to finish again. I actually literally had that exact thing written down in my notes, that I'm glad that they didn't spend way too much time on the, like, basically doing a retread of Ahsoka bombing the Jedi Temple again, where it's like, we all know she didn't do it, but we just gotta basically kill time here and wait for the characters in the show to figure it out somehow. Like, and I know the way it was presented, because we get that scene with May and then it goes right to Osha on the ship. Like, maybe they weren't trying to show you right away that they were twins, but me instantly, just right away, I just knew. It's like, okay, they are not the same, like, person. There was one point though when she first has that, like forced dyad moment, I guess you could even call it, with May, and she sees the younger May. I was like, wait a
Mm-hmm.
minute, are we getting some kind of like, is this all in her head and she's got like some split personality thing going on here? But that's another thing I'm glad they didn't do. But yeah, it felt like a necessary thing. When you have the twin storyline, you've got to kind of do you got to frame the first one first. So I'm glad that they got that out of the way quick, and still did it in an entertaining way too. It wasn't like, okay, let's just do this because we gotta, and then we can get to the good stuff. Like, it was still done in an entertaining way, and like the stuff of her on the space, like in the ship and
The
in the
Trade
cell and all
Federation
that.
ship,
Yes.
as well. She's on for a bit. Um, Real quick, I do think that they did this pretty interesting to make you maybe think it is the same person at one point, right? Because she
Mhm.
wakes up, and then you have one of her crewmates saying like, "Where were you last night? We could have,
Mhm.
like, because they were out." And
Yep.
then we learn that that May killed Indara last night. So it does leave you to kind of leave it a bit, but then, like you said, they do wrap it up probably halfway in, where you're like, no, there's two of them,
Mhm.
which
No,
is
there's
kind
two of them.
of which is kind of like what the hot rumor was going around, right?
Yeah.
Leak, whatever, was going around. That there were twins and stuff, but I think they were trying to lean away from that in the trailer, so you can so it'd be a little bit of a surprise that, like, oh, you kind of get this bonus character, because like they don't show Osha that much in the actual trailers, except for when she
Mhm.
says like, I didn't do it,
Yep.
and she's wearing something totally different than what May's wearing, of course.
Yep.
um yeah, okay, so I want to read the opening crawl here because I wrote it down, and I think this is interesting. So, 100 years before the rise of the Empire, it is a time of peace. The Jedi Order and Galactic Republic have prospered for centuries without war, but in the dark corners of the galaxy, a powerful few learn to use the Force in secret. One of them, a lone assassin, risks discovery to seek revenge. You talked about it a bit with Ahsoka. You mentioned the show, and I'm going through it, Clone Wars with Logan right now. He's watched Ahsoka, And he says he was a little confused in Ahsoka without having some of that backstory, but now through Clone Wars, he's really like, I got to revisit Ahsoka again.
Yeah.
This show, if you are worried about that and you're listening to the show for some reason, the barrier to entry is very low. This crawl is pretty much all you need because it's a new time frame. Like, just know lightsabers, Jedi. Go in and you can watch this show and make sense of it pretty well, I think.
Mm-hmm.
You might get upset that there's some fire in space. Your mileage may vary on that one.
Oh Lord, we won't even give him the time of the day.
No.
Well, we can obviously address it. There's been a lot of review bombing for the show.
Yes.
It's been intentional. It's been biased. It's been super lame, and it's just one of those things that we're unfortunately going to have to deal with.
So much so, I've almost not, like, if I see the words Acolyte pop up on social media, I just scroll past because I don't want to keep giving them the time of day, whether it's the person that liked it or the person that hated it. I'm worried that I'm going to read something that pisses me off because I just want to have good discussion, like what we're going to have. I don't want to have it devolve into this whole unfair critiques that people are going to make to this show to push their own agenda. So, like, it's gotten so bad that, like, if I see anything on Facebook, I'm not like clicking the comments. I'm not clicking the comments on Twitter. I'm just, going through and enjoying that I like the show.
I had some time on Wednesday, I'll be honest with you. If you go to my Twitter and my TikTok, you'll see I had some time, but I got it out of my system, and I'm giving them no more headspace from this point forward.
Yes, but it was something we had to bring up. One thing I want to bring up, which made me think more in the second time I watched it compared to the first time. The first time I watched it, I was like, "Oh, that's interesting." Second time I watched it, I started getting theories on it. But when she kills Indara, right? She had sent the blade to the bartender, and Indara saves it, but then she gets hit in the chest, in her heart, dies. Right? She goes to collect the blade, and it looks like she might try to finish off the bartender till she sees the kid, right? And she leaves. And at first you're like, maybe there's a heart in there somewhere. I'm now thinking it's not really so much heart, but a bad memory, What does she say to Indara? A Jedi does not pull out their weapon unless ready to kill.
To kill, yeah.
She says, I don't fight against unarmed opponents. She says, yes, you do. Right? And then she sees the kid and leaves. I'm wondering, this will probably upset people, so strap in. But what if the Jedi didn't do something so great, which is kind of what we're thinking, led to believe anyway, right?
Yeah.
But with their lightsabers, what if the fire is not the actual cause of the upset, right? What if she didn't kill the bartender and the kid because she didn't want to be like the Jedi she saw on Brindok all those years ago, 16 years ago? Yep. What could they have done? Torben says he thought they were doing what's right. So obviously I don't think they were on a murderous spree killing Tusken Raiders like Anakin or anything.
No.
But it's interesting that before I was like, oh, that's interesting. Like, maybe she's just like, oh, kids are off limits, like some villains are. But I'm kind of thinking it's more of I don't want to be what my enemy is. And she's almost holding herself to a higher standard than what she thinks the Jedi hold themselves to because of her constant lines about, you pull out the weapon to kill. So that means she saw lightsabers 16 years ago and she knows that something not great happened. And then also knowing that when she says we don't strike unarmed opponents, apparently, according to Mae, she saw them do that. Right. And just really interesting. I want to get your takes on that and maybe why she left the bartender and son alive.
I think you nailed it. I wish I had more of like a dissenting opinion so I could provide a different side of the aisle, but that's exactly what I think happened. I think
the first take, we don't have to have the dissenting.
Yeah. But no, I agree completely. Everything that they've shown us up to now indicates that they did something really wrong. Like, Saul has been very reserved about just talking about what happened that night. Obviously, Torben felt so bad about it that he's gone into a vow of silence.
And killed himself, took a potion.
And ultimately...
poison, not potion.
like without much coercion either, just kind of like, well, knew this was coming. So like it's something that very much had to have gone against the Jedi code. Obviously, I think not to go double theory time here, but I think that what happened there is also going to lead to us finding the identity of the masked, what we assume is a Sith at this point. I think that there was another Jedi there, one who was also a Padawan of Saul. Like when they have Jecki question him, why do you keep the hologram of all your former Padawans? I think that's going to come back into play, and we're going to see whoever that was on his hologram at some point. I think that whoever they were didn't agree with what the Jedi did. They fought back. We see the cut on Torben's face. I think that there was some kind of battle there where they think that they killed this other Jedi as well, and then they got away somehow. So yeah, I think whatever happened on help me, the planet.
Which one?
The one
Brendok, right?
Brendok. Yeah. Whatever happened on Brendok was a mission gone horribly wrong. I don't think it's going to be something where it's like the Jedi were out this whole time to do something horrible. I think it's going to be they got bad intel or something like that, and their lapse in judgment.
I don't think they were on a mission there, honestly. From what it sounded like, they were there was a Jedi temple on there, or an outpost that they were stationed on.
Right.
So that means they probably even knew these people even better, right?
Mm-hmm. And we know that there's these witches there as well. We saw in the trailer. I think it's Mother Anasanya.
Mother Anasaya, which is also the last name that they use for Osha in this. They say Osha Anasaya.
Mm-hmm.
So that they mentioned like her two mothers that passed away in the fire. Mm-hmm. I'm guessing Mother Anasaya is one of those mothers. And maybe it wasn't so much a term of like how Mother Talzin was, but I think it might be more like an actual mother in that regard. We'll find out, I guess. But that's also like she has that swirl on her head, which is what Mae has tattooed on her as well. And I think that's what gave it away to Indara, that this was Mae, and that Mae was still alive and not being Osha.
Yeah. So we've got all these pieces on the board that are still kind of separate right now, but we know that are all involved in whatever happened on Brendok. And it's really just about kind of fitting them all together now.
Yeah.
It almost, the way it was presented, almost feels like it would be a little too obvious to have it just be that, like, oh, the Jedi did something wrong, and it just, like, they're very much leading us down that path. So I feel like there is going to be some swerve at some point. Maybe it is the Jedi thing that I mentioned about and how they're the identity of the masked Sith. But
yeah,
I feel like there's a key, a piece of information that we haven't got yet that's going to tie all of this together. Whether we get it in the flashbacks or some kind of reveal in next episode, who knows? But yeah,
I saw.
The pieces,
So they put out a little trailer today that's like 30 seconds long, and it's like,
oh, okay.
They're like, hey, this certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes and all that kind of stuff. There's an interesting clip in there about halfway through that I was like, what? What am I looking at here? I don't know if you want me to say it or if we want to just okay. Yeah. So if you don't want to hear this, I guess skip 30 seconds to a minute from now. Okay. So in this trailer, it shows Torben before his balding and his scar. Okay. And which is, he's been in trailers, when he was younger.
Yeah.
And it has Kalnaka with his lightsaber ignited, leaping in the air, coming down on Torben.
Okay. So we also see at one point, I forget, I think it was in a trailer, that young Torben and his eyes are blacked over. So maybe like the witches have possessed him or something like that.
Yes, so that's what I'm saying. Like, what if Mae is misunderstanding and the Jedi didn't actually do anything wrong, but because of the possession, she thinks that these Jedi are evil. And Torben is
Wow.
holding himself accountable because he's a Jedi that feels like he was used and didn't see it coming, whatever. Or
Wow. Yeah.
maybe then they took out the witches because of their evil dark side. You know what I'm saying? So there
Hmm.
could be multiple layers to it there, but that got
Yeah.
my mind going today when I saw that.
That would probably honestly be the best way to do it, because it's a way that doesn't paint either side as being totally dead wrong. And probably in terms of Mae, and the verdict is still out on the
Yeah, like
witches, but in terms
she
of
would
Mae
still
and
be
the Jedi,
seeing what she thought she saw,
yeah,
but
it's
yeah.
true to her, yeah, but she just doesn't know the caveat that, that this was actually a possessed individual or whatever. I mean, she was young at the time, so maybe she didn't notice that the eyes were blacked over, or maybe the eyes blacking over is just something that happens when they're first possessed, and then it goes back to like normal
Yes,
sort of
yeah.
thing. So yeah, that would be a really interesting one. I'd be curious to see the motivations like behind that. Like, why would the witches possess the Jedi to come and then destroy their own like planet, place, whatever you want to call it,
Yeah, maybe they're not.
place on the planet of Brendok. They're
Maybe they didn't want him to take Osha, right?
yeah.
Soul. Because we find out so I heard somebody have a theory that maybe Mae started the fire to try to prevent them from taking
Mhm.
Osha away from her,
Mhm.
right? And then it accidentally killed her whole family.
Yep.
Um, my theory is, what if Osha's actually the one that accidentally set the fire, and they don't know that, and they kind of
Mhm.
think Mae's the one that did it. Um,
Yeah, that definitely
that
could be.
that could be interesting. Let's talk about that Sith Lord though. I wanted to read what he said at the end of the episode here. Um, the Jedi live in a dream they believe everyone shares. If you attack a Jedi with a weapon, you will fail. Steel and lasers are no threat to them. But an acolyte kills without a weapon. An acolyte kills the dream. So, my question for you, is this the Sith Lord, or is this the Sith apprentice trying to find his own apprentice to then overtake the Lord, as is custom in the Sith duality?
The latter. I think it's definitely the apprentice. I think that the last few episodes, or maybe even to set up a season 2, like that'll be the main story, figuring out who the identity of the master is. Because it just, I do think that this one that we've seen is going to have very close ties to all the Jedi we've seen and stuff. Some kind of interactions before, whether it was, he was one of, or they were one of Saul's Padawans, or something along, like there's some kind of connection there that I feel like makes this a little personal, with having Mae carry out all these specific murders. Um, I'm I'm I go back and forth on the identity of the master being, like, if they go the Legends route and they're like, oh, it's
Plagueis, or
Plagueis,
before
or
Plagueis, whoever's before Plagueis.
yeah. I have it written down here somewhere. I forget. Plagueis is master. I forget who off the top of my head.
We're not real fans.
Yes, yeah. Had to fit one in. But yeah, so I go back and forth a little on that. I just, for me to make a storyline based around like the identity of these people, and not have it, either of them be somebody that we would already at least relatively know of, feels like it would be a little anticlimactic for me. I could be wrong, but I feel like there's got to be a little bit of that like whoa moment in there, whether it's somebody that we know already just like from canon / legends stuff, or if it's somebody that we've already met in the show, like somebody who we weren't expecting to be, that like
I'm
a
thinking,
York or something. Just
I'm thinking
not
more
clear.
like that than canon stuff, because I just put myself in the foot of the casual fan that
Yeah,
is watching this for the first time, being told he doesn't have to know anything, and then
yeah,
they're like, "Oh my god,
exactly.
it's Plagueis's master," and you're like, "What? Who is that? Am I
Yeah,
supposed to know who that is?"
yep,
I don't want to make this a big Marok
yeah,
situation from Ahsoka, where then he just turns out to be a puff of smoke. So,
yeah,
but I'm actually kind of partial to the Keemer
Yeah.
theory. He knows a
Yeah.
lot for being the supplier. I totally
Mhm.
think he's acting with the Jedi here. He doesn't act like his normal self, right? Like, uh, what I mean by that is he's almost playing dumb when he
Yep.
runs into the Jedi,
Yep.
and he is saying things like, I have it written down here.
Go really
Oh,
quick while you're
I'm
looking.
her supplier. Yeah.
When Saul walks in and Yord comes up behind, they kind of like trap him, and Yord's like, "Who is he?" And he does like, "I thought he was with you,"
Yeah.
thinking that
Oh
he
my
was
god, that
that
made
little
me
moment
laugh
cracked me up.
because they obviously set that up. They hear him mention he to Osha, right?
Hmm.
Yord comes in, and then as yeah, like you said, Soul comes in. Soul asks, "Who is he?" He's looking at him, so he turns around, and looks at Yord. He's like, "I thought he was with you." That was I had that in my notes like since day one when it aired, because I was like, this is a scene I want to bring up because I just love his delivery.
Yep.
Uh, it's funny, but not like forced funny. Like it was just something I thought was, it kind of came into my mind right before he said it, and I'm like, oh,
Mhm.
that's like perfect, you know.
Yeah. 100%.
Uh, but I think he's playing dumb here. He says he's the supplier and stuff, but when we go back to when Mae originally came in, right? He's more than a supplier. He's like, hey, so did you kill the guy? Find his
Mhm.
weakness. Everybody has one,
Yep.
right? I'm running out of time. And he says, you're running out of Jedi. If a sleeping monk is tough, what about taking on a Wookiee Jedi? Right? So
Yeah.
he already knows all of this stuff. He's the one that's able to tell her where Kelnaka is.
I was just gonna say that he's the one who literally ends up guiding
Yeah.
her towards Kelneka. Yeah. No,
And
he's definitely got more going on.
his line of Jedi justify their galactic dominance in the name of peace, but peace is a lie. Like, it sounds like he is, even if he is not the master, he he's bought in to
Hmm.
the teachings of whoever the master is, right? Because
Hmm.
like he 180s it completely when Soul comes in and everybody's coming in. It is like, hey, don't do that mind wipe thing you do, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, thank you, sir, and all this kind of stuff. Totally different night and day when he's even kind of scary when he approaches uh Osha. He's like, you
Very,
look
very
just like
Palpatine-esque.
her.
When
You look, yeah.
Senator Palpatine versus Darth
He's like,
Sidious. Yeah.
you look just like her. And then they come in and he immediately switches, right?
Yep.
And it's just he's a great actor, by the way, too. He was in
Manny Jacinto. Yeah.
the Good Place, and he is so funny in that. And part of, like, when he's cracking some of the lines in this, you're like, that's perfect how he was in the Good Place, and then he's able to turn it onto a different level, and he's great.
Yeah. I hope that they're making him a bit of a red herring. Like right now in like the who done it list, I feel like he's probably like 2 or 3 maybe in people's of like when you think of like who the identity of that Sith could be, he's probably like the second or third people usually bring up. I hope that they're planting that and making it seem like it's him, and in reality like he's still working with them of course, but he's not like the one. He's more just kind of like the mole who's smarter, much smarter than he leads on.
Yeah, definitely. I think he could be a red herring as well. But I do like the idea of, like, take off that mask and it's him, because we do know that he mentions to Mae that, like, or Mae mentions to him that they don't actually know the true identity of the master.
No.
It is somebody that's being hidden even from them.
Mhm.
So it could really be anybody, and I think that is really interesting. Um, okay, my favorite character I want to talk about real quick is Soul. Master Soul is just Qui-Gon esque. I like these type of guys that question stuff and kind hearted, fatherly, right? Like the way Qui-Gon was to Anakin. The way he is with Osha, he definitely feels like he had let her down, and they have this great conversation where she says, like, maybe I wasn't a good apprentice, right? And he says, maybe I wasn't the best teacher, type thing,
Yeah.
and it's like, some Jedi would be like, yeah, you weren't the best apprentice. Sorry, dude. Right. But like he is able to take ownership of like maybe I wasn't the best and trying to become better. That's the whole point of having a Padawan, right? Is it is like another trial for the Jedi
Hmm.
to learn from their Padawans and become a
Yeah.
different uh Jedi, a different
Hmm.
higher level.
Yep. Yeah. The Obi-Wan conundrum a bit there. Yeah, but Saul was great. I just read today that this was not only is this his first English speaking role, but he only learned it for 4 months. I mean, I'm sure, in past roles he's picked up stuff, but like really only focused on learning the language for 4 months before starting to film this show. Like that's astounding to me. I took 3 years of Spanish in high school and I could still probably give you like 2 to 3 sentences. Like that level of commitment and like I said on Twitter, he very much embodies Qui-Gon Jinn, who he got his main inspiration from. So the
That's his
way that he
favorite
was,
Jedi.
yeah. So the way that you can come into a universe that you've never been involved in, embody a character perfectly that you are trying to, all while speaking a language that isn't even your first language. I mean, just like kudos, dude, for real. Like he's great.
Yeah, and Alan Sepinwall, who's usually a television review person. He writes for Rolling Stone now. He's the one that put out that really weird review, calling out his stilted delivery. I watched it again today, and I mean I thought he has so much heart in his delivery when he's talking, and like even when he smiles at Osha and says, "I believe you," right?
Mm-hmm.
Like when she says she didn't do it and that Mae's alive, and
Mm-hmm.
again learned it for 4 months, is a big Star Wars fan, and learned it for this role. Like that just shows how dedicated he was for it, and I commend that. He's my favorite on here. I have a Jedi to root for right now, and I think he is
Mm-hmm.
the one that probably tried to de-escalate whatever happened
Yeah.
16 years ago. He mentions, I tried to save both of you.
Mm-hmm.
And then, when Osha in episode 2 is wanting to go out there and do stuff, he says, "Hey, you want revenge, let me have justice. Like I want to," he even says, "I couldn't save her when she was a child. Let me try now."
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like so sincere
Yeah.
by Master Soul, and he's getting fed up. He's getting fed up from the Jedi who want to have a nice chat about it before they go try to save Cal Naka.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm gonna try to find the what the I think it was Rebecca Henderson who plays Vernestra Rowe,
Yeah.
and she had a very interesting perspective on why she's like this. So while I'm looking for that, if you wanted to vamp and say anything about what I talked about with Master Soul.
Yes, because obviously Saul does speak, a little slower, but I didn't take that as the actor not what is it his name. I'm not. I'm gonna butcher it, so I'm not even gonna bother. But I took his cadence more as an intentional thing because he's so concise and calculated in the things that he says and the weight that they carry. Like I didn't take it for a second as just, oh God, he's really struggling to get this English out. Like that article was very weird, and the undertones were obvious. I don't really know how that thing even got greenlit, but I thought Saul was amazing. I thought he was one of many really awesome characters that we got in this show, and I'm sure we'll kind of break down Jecki and Yord in the Yord Horde in a minute here. But it just once we get to your point you're trying to make here.
Yeah, I don't know if I can find it, but I think it was like I forget where I read it, but it was kind of a mention of she sees um like she's not doing this at the behest of the political stuff the way that we see it in the prequels,
Mm-hmm.
of like let's slow down. I think it's more of like trying to keep it hush hush because of maybe the repercussions if this thing gets out, but also
Well, she
just
says
wanting
as
to
much.
yeah, not wanting to jump into immediately rushing and putting people in danger. I'll see if I can find it some other time, but I
Yeah.
just forget what it was and where it was. I'm trying to search Rebecca. I'm trying to search Vernestra. I'm trying to find like all this stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, let's talk about Yord. Yord.
Your
Um,
Lord.
yeah, yeah. The Yord Horde has been out in force. He has a Padawan as well named Tasi Loa,
Mhm.
and she is a Zygarian, I believe. So it's funny. I just did the arc with Logan on the uh, chronological Clone Wars. It just released today. It just released today, I think, the episode that I'm talking about. The Slaves of Republic arc, where they have the Zygarians and they
Mhm.
go and see them. So we got to see like a live action Zygarian, and she's a Jedi. She's really only in that one scene. Yord does not bring his apprentice with him on this mission. But his dynamic with Osha, he was friends with Osha when they were
Mhm.
little. She's happy to see him. She's happy to see that he passed the trials while he's a little standoffish. And I guess understandable. Somebody matching her description
Yeah.
killed Indara. They even had the bartender come in and say, "That's her."
Yeah.
He's like, "Doesn't matter what I think, right?"
Mhm.
And then we have his relationship with Jecki, who was like, Yord is Yord the third person we're bringing? And Soul's like, yeah, you got a problem with Yord? She's like, yeah, he's Yord, right?
He's
And
yours.
he's shirtless, steaming his tunic, his robes, and she comes in. She's like, Yord, put your clothes on. I want to know more about their dynamic too. Like, did they also grow up together? Or she like, how does she know Yord so well, Jecki? That's what I want to know.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it was definitely sort of a brother sister kind of relationship growing up, very much in the way that we saw all of the younglings when Saul was giving them their lesson. Um, I also love the way how Saul and Jackie, how Yord and Jackie both, they've established very well how they're, uh, how they share a lot of traits with Saul, which would be expected given that they were both his Padawans, and in their inquisitiveness. Like I mentioned before, Jackie questions Saul on the holograms, and she's just seems kind of like got a little bit of that Arya Stark, like, even though I'm always the youngest in the room, I'm always the first one that's not going to be afraid to ask questions and like take control. And we see Yord do a little bit of that too. He questions Saul's judgment a few times, much in the way that we're seeing Saul question the ones above him in this pursuit, originally in the pursuit of Osha, and everything we're seeing now. I thought it's just kind of cool to see them all share those traits, and it makes a lot of sense given that Saul was ultimately the one who trained both of them.
Yeah, did Soul train Yord?
That's how I could be wrong. I took
Yeah,
it
I don't
as
think he did because I think Soul was
oh
the master for Osha, so I think somebody else was training Yord at the time. But I could be wrong. I guess we'll find out.
hmm.
Maybe.
So the way that I had like taken that is that basically all of the younglings in that class were Saul's like apprentices. Is that
Oh no, I don't think so. I think this is
okay?
like I think Master Soul is doing what Yoda did in Attack of the Clones. He's leading the class,
Right,
and Obi-Wan's
right.
like, "I lost a planet," and Yoda's like, "You lost a planet,"
Yes. Okay. Yeah, I didn't even think of that. I
yeah,
just kind of thought the rules were a little different. This new era, new like I thought that was just another way that they were distinguishing how it was different from the more kind of
right,
traditional
right.
stuff. Yeah. Oh, okay. So yeah, I
Yeah,
guess
I
we don't
think
know
he's
who
just
yours
teaching.
master. All right. Message rescinded. Pretend that whole. I will say though, it does still apply in the case of Jackie.
Yes, yeah, Jackie. I think there's actually similarities between Jackie and Osha, a bit with the questioning stuff that you were talking about. Yord is very much a Obi-Wan by the book type of guy.
So much so that he gives you the "I have a bad feeling about this"
Yes. Oh, let me tell you,
because you're
So
seeing rhymes.
happy. I'm so happy that we have that line back in Star Wars. We've gone too long without it. I don't even know the last time we had it, but uh, it used to be in everything. They even
It was
still
a staple. Yeah.
like uh I'm a Last Jedi fan, but like it's not said in there. I think they said BB-8 says it, but like literally you don't hear it, right?
Yeah.
So whatever. You can say any droid says it then.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
like, okay.
Like, yeah, gotcha. I speak binary apparently.
Yeah.
So that was great to hear. This is the type of stuff you get when fans make Star Wars, though, right? Like, she's throwing in Leslye Headland has thrown in EU references. She throws in planets that have existed. She throws in species that she's wanted to see Jedi of. She throws all that stuff in there, and it. I have a bad feeling about this. That's something I would write into a Star Wars project if I could, right? Because I know that is like one of the things on the checklist that I would want to have somebody say because it's fun. That's the fun stuff of Star Wars. The show is serious at times, but it also has some nice comedic timing and comedic bits that play, like we said with the Keemer and his thought he was with you.
Yep. It feels natural, and it helps kind of break up the very, very serious kind of dark tone of this show otherwise.
Yes. Yeah. There's also reference. There's the planet that they crash on, Karlak. This is the planet that next week I'll be talking about on Chronological Clone Wars. Look at that timing.
There's on the behind.
Yes, there is. That. But I didn't mention that in the episode. But it is the episode where Lux Bonteri and Ahsoka go undercover as a couple, and they go to the Death Watch and the Mandalorians, and Pre Vizsla like wipes out that whole village. Yes, this is that same planet. So pretty cool how that stuff can tie in together. I recorded that forever ago. It's coming out next Friday, by the way. Nice. The Barash vow as well.
Yeah,
is what Torben takes. It is named after a Jedi from the High Republic, Barash, who took that vow. But it's also, before that, was mentioned in Charles Soule's Vader comic in 2017, and it's a vow an oath that is taken by Jedi who completely refrained from all activities related to the Jedi Order as a form of penitence, disengaging from anything but the Force itself and committing themselves to gain ultimate communion with it. Jedi Master Barash Sylvain originated the practice, and the vow was named after her. Although most Jedi who swore the vow did so as a method of atonement, some did it in order to refocus themselves on the Force. Torben has not spoken for a decade because of what happened.
I wish some Star Wars fans would take a similar approach.
Yes. Take the vow.
I shouldn't even say Star Wars fans because I don't consider them to be. But anyway,
right.
We won't go down the rabbit hole.
Oh, another great line that really stood out to me too is when Soul tells Vernestra that he wants to take Osha with them, because and she agrees, because she says, look, this other person that matched the description was doing this last night. You've had her the whole time. It's obviously not her. It's Mae that's still alive. Well, when he comes out to tell everybody that, Yord pushes back a bit, right? And Soul just shuts it down by, the Jedi agree with me, right?
I don't get why he didn't just tell him the full situation though. Like I don't know.
I think they do know. I think that at this point Yord is still a little distrusting of Osha. But I think this is you know how if you're like teaching somebody something, everybody has their own methods, right? Like when I was a trainer at my job before, I would know some people that would learn from my talking. Some would learn from doing it, and some would learn from me showing, right? Yeah. And I would adjust how I taught somebody something due to how they could handle it. I think this is what Soul's doing here. Yord is a by-the-book guy who wants to listen to the order, so he shuts it down by saying, hey, the Jedi agree with me. Yeah. And it makes Yord be like,
well, if they agree, I guess
I guess I have to.
Yeah. No, it's great. Smart. Yeah. I guess just kind of like while we're wrapping up here, we got to touch on Mae basically doing the smartest thing that you can do when fighting Jedi, and like just using their their own code and their own emotions against him. Like we mentioned the opening fight and how she uses Endara's compassion ultimately to get to her, using the grief and the guilt in the case of Torben. Again, not a show of might, a show of mental fortitude and of intelligence and cunning, I guess, if you will. Very cerebral is Mae. But okay, the no weapons thing. Obviously, the Sith master / apprentice, still not sure yet, mentions that acolytes don't use weapons. But we do see Mae ultimately does use weapons, even though she ultimately weaponizes the compassion and things like that. She still stabs, Endara right in the heart. Like,
well, that's why she's failing.
And she says, like, we got to do it my way, right?
Yeah, because I think she's failing her test. I think her test right now is to kill one Jedi without weapons.
Mm-hmm.
And she tries it with Endara. She doesn't pull out the knives until Endara starts getting more of the upper hand. At first, she's trying to take away the lightsaber from Endara because she doesn't want her to take it. And then I think at a certain point, she starts getting beaten. She's like, I have to use the knives.
Mm-hmm.
Torben, she tries to kill without any weapons at first, but she can't break through to his vow, his force field. So then she has to resort to the poison. And this is when, of course, Keemer says, you're running out of Jedi. So what I take it
the right way, basically.
To kill the right way. This is her, what I would say, Sith trial. To become a Sith apprentice instead of just an acolyte. Instead of passing the Jedi trials, she's trying to pass the Sith trials and has to kill one of these Jedi without any weapons. And that's why he says, if you can't kill a sleeping monk without a weapon, how are you going to take on a Wookiee?
Yeah.
Right? Without a weapon. So this leads me to believe that she's going to have to use a weapon on Cal Naka as well. And it's going to leave her to trying to take out Soul without a weapon. And that's probably where we're going to come to a head in these, I don't know if like the last episode, but like in the last set of episodes, it's going to be Cal Naka probably dies as well. She's been very successful in killing these Jedi. I think there's also a screenshot or something of Jeki dual wielding lightsabers, and one of them is Cal Naka's lightsaber. Yeah. So unfortunately, I think the Wookiee is not long for the world. But yeah, so I think that is what the Sith Lord was saying, or the whoever it is was saying at the end of the first episode was, here's our code. Now go out and do it. And that is what she's trying to do, and she's failing.
Okay. So to support your notion that this is basically her Sith trial, isn't part of the Sith trial also that you have to steal a Jedi's lightsaber and bleed it, right?
Like, yeah, I guess so, because she doesn't have her own lightsaber to bleed, right? From what we know. So,
and we made reference to when we saw the clip from the Phantom Menace that we see her go for Endara's lightsaber. She does the exact same thing to Saul in the second episode when they're having their fight in the street.
But she left Endara's, right, when she died.
Maybe because
so does she have to take it from the living Jedi?
That's what I'm thinking. Or it's like because she didn't kill her the right way, it was like, shit, like I can't now bring this back. Like it has to be done strictly by the Sith code. And then ultimately that's how she would then get the saber, bleed it out, yada yada.
Interesting. Yeah, I think that's kind of where we're heading with the show's format. Yeah, her fight with Soul was we haven't seen Soul whip out his lightsaber at all yet. He's actually, and that is a big juxtaposition from Yord, who's using it as a flashlight.
Right? Like, yeah.
He's going in like he's ready to go every
Jedi
time.
Survivor mode, walking through the cave. Yeah,
he's ready. He's ready to go. But Soul, we haven't seen his lightsaber at all yet. So something big is going to have to happen, I think, for him to actually.
Well, it'll be that moment in the cave that we saw in all the trailers when the Sith, the lightsaber goes kind of like buzzing through, and then they all ignite.
So does that happen in present day? Does he have his long hair in that?
Yes, that's
okay.
Yeah. Yep.
So at some point here, does he pull a Thanos and says, "Fine, I'll do it myself," and decide to take out these Jedi instead of letting Mae?
I think it's going to be a thing because as we saw this planet, I forget off the top of my head what it is, but the planet where Kalnaka is a forest planet. We also see Vernestra Rowe
Kofar.
when she okay, and when Vernestra
Oh yeah,
busts
her
out her
whip.
saber, it is also on a sort of forested planet. So I think it's going to be a thing where like all these Jedi are on this planet, and it's basically like he's got no choice but to be there himself as well, like to not to help his acolyte, but maybe get his own pound of flesh. You know, if especially if there's a bit of revenge / personal connection there for them, as opposed to him just being a Sith who wants to kill Jedi.
Yes, yeah, I'm really curious to see how that will play out because again, there's multiple ways they can get out of this whole like the Jedi. I mean, the Sith haven't been seen for millennia. Like, there's ways they can get around that from just the way that the Jedi could cover this up, the way that they covered up what happened on Brindok 16 years ago.
Think it's gonna be. It's gonna be like the full circle moment at the end, where again it's another cover up, and I'm sure that's gonna piss people off because everyone likes to think the Jedi are perfect and they've been so great for so long, but
Well, the thing is, too, they were totally wrong.
yeah.
You know, Ki-Adi-Mundi was totally wrong when he was saying they've been disappeared for a millennia. No, they were in hiding the whole time, dude.
Mm-hmm.
And who's to know what gets passed down and what doesn't?
Exactly. History is told by the victors.
Yes.
Nope.
So there you go. At some point, or maybe they don't realize who, or maybe they think they did resolve it when Mae gets captured or something. You know, maybe they think this is Mae, and they don't think it is actually a Sith that they're dealing with. So there's ways that they can get around it, but I just hope that not everybody in this cast dies at the end of the season.
Me too. I don't think so. I think we're going to end up getting a second season. There is so much that they've set up that I think they could easily make this like a 2-3 season thing if they wanted to.
Yeah. 4.9 million for the first day views.
Pretty good. Best one so far in 2024.
Yeah, I know they didn't have a lot in 2024 yet, Disney Plus wise, but but I know people were trying to quote the Ahsoka numbers of 15 mil. That was a 5-day period, not a day.
Yeah. Also, so, again, we're talking about a show centered around not just Ahsoka, who we've loved for so long, but the entire Rebels crew. Basically, like a decade plus worth of storytelling with those characters. So night and day to compare the two is just disingenuous.
All right. Anything else about this show before we wrap it up here?
No, I think we touched on basically everything I have written down here. So no, I think we're all good. Just really, really excited for next week and to see how all of this kind of takes another step forward. If internet rumors are to be believed, the people who were mad about the first 2 episodes are going to be infinitely more mad about the third one. So I'm pretty stoked.
Well, that's why I think it might be the flashback that shows what the Jedi did, because I could see that setting people off.
Me too. But it could be.
Oh well.
Yeah, I guess we'll see. I'm excited to see it.
Me too. All right, well, that can wrap us up here. We'll be talking episode 3, which I assume will have another duality name like Lost, Found, and Revenge and Justice, which, of course, both reflects what's going on, right? Like, Lost could refer to Mae. It could also refer to Osha, but Found could also refer to either one, really, right? Revenge and Justice, I think you mostly would read that as Mae is seeking revenge. Osha wants justice. But, as Soul points out, what Osha at first is asking for is revenge. He says, you want revenge. See how that worked for your sister. So it is just cool how they're kind of both going on the same trajectory a little bit, but different ways. And that they both thought the other one was dead, right? Osha, Mae is trying to get revenge on losing Osha, And they're like, no, Osha's alive. She said, I don't believe you. And then they come
Yep.
face to face at the end of the episode. So
Yep. You know, it took me out of it for a second though, having twins who were both Force sensitive and didn't know each other existed. I don't know, man. It just, for Star Wars, it's a little out there for me, a little far fetched.
but somehow Leia's always known.
Yeah. Oh, God.
As she says,
Hopefully
after they made out in Empire Strikes Back. But somehow I've always known.
Yeah,
you
it's
were
like,
my
what do you
brother.
mean you've always known? Yeah. But that's the Bible. That's the Star Wars that can never be topped, you know.
Oh, no, my favorite is when they complain about the fire, and literally you see the same thing in Phantom Menace when R2 goes out there to
Just numerous shots of that already happening at points in Star Wars. Not even just the R2. There was like a few different ones that people were sharing around. So yeah.
And real quick, they were complaining about the campfire crackling sound of it when obviously that was Osha's memory of that happening on her home world. It's not actually happening on the ship. People can't.
And even if, like, that's what you're pissed off about, even if that wasn't the case, that's what you're upset about. Like, all right, man, if that's what makes you happy, if that's how you enjoy consuming your media and critiquing it, God bless you.
The only thing I'll say to that before we end up is when you see complaints like that, it's when you know they're looking for complaints.
Yep.
Because none of that stuff even crossed my mind when I was watching it. And then I jump on and you're like, what? Yeah. And then when you can point out other aspects in George Lucas Star Wars that does the same thing, and they're like, well, that's different. Then you know you got them. You know you got them.
Yep.
All right. June 10th, by the way, these lovely Oreos are hitting the shelves apparently, and I'm going to go looking for them.
Dunk them in some blue milk.
I know. If I can find it, damn it.
Oh, you still can't find it?
No.
Oh, damn. Stop and Shop and ShopRite. I know that those are like the two around.
See, my ShopRite doesn't have it.
Man.
I'm about to throw a fit.
Do it.
But yeah, so you can reach us at Pod Awakens for all of our social media, or email us podawakens@gmail.com. As my friend C.O. Bibble would say, you must contact us.
You must contact us.
You had the eyes perfect right there.
You must contact.
Make sure you contact us with your feedback there. Like and subscribe to us on YouTube. Rate and review us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Helps other people find the show. We hope you're enjoying not only our show, but the Acolyte itself. Send us your theories and thoughts so we can discuss them throughout the time. We hope to be back sooner for our episode 3 coverage. But thank you all for watching and listening, and we'll catch you next time here on the Pod Awakens.